Okay, that was Charlie Baker. Let's let the governor
Let's let the governor respond.
I want to first of all compliment both Charlie and Tim on a couple of thoughtful points, but I also want to make some. I want to clear up some facts. We have made a lot of these very hard decisions, and will continue to make them. And the recognition from the bond rating agencies is not that it happened just because. It happened because, according to the bond rating agencies, because we wisely stewarded this budget and took what I described earlier as that blended approach, a combination of cuts, reductions in services, reductions in workforce, but also raising revenue. And by the way, kudos to my predecessors, Republican governors, and the Democratic legislature for shoring up that rainy day fund. It has been raining in the last few years, and that has absolutely made it a little easier to manage through. It wasn't easy, but a little easier to manage through these times. That combination of approach is what was acknowledged and complimented by the bond rating agencies, the AA bond rating. And I'll also say this, Charlie: in the 8 years you stewarded state government, you never achieved a AA bond rating. I also want to just be clear about
the started from, which was basically junk bond status inherited from the last time we had one party.
If I can just finish, my point, Tim, you said that the stimulus bill was all about propping up the private sector. I've heard that rhetorical point lots and lots of times, and it's the public sector. And it's just not accurate. It is definitely the case that some of that money has been used to maintain teachers in classrooms and police officers and firefighters on the street, but it's also been invested in building up this broken infrastructure of ours, and that in combination with the state bonding that we have and that we have been able to do because of that bond rating, and actually that you supported, and I thank you. I thank you for it. We have the largest program to reinvest in this broken public infrastructure of ours in the history of the Commonwealth. Very transparent and very effective, and it is contributing to those job numbers, particularly in construction. I will also say this. The challenges that we have in terms of balancing this budget today and in the future will be exacerbated if the proposals to roll back state sales and income tax and others that Charlie and Tim have put on the table are passed on day one. There will come a time, I believe, to roll those taxes back. But if you really want to see a calamity, try doing that on day one. And then let's have a serious conversation about what's involved, because it's a lot more than $1 billion that would have to be cut. It would be several billions of dollars. And right now, all across the Commonwealth, there are programs and people struggling because we're not able to do all that they want and that they need in terms of government helping them help themselves.
Governor, the people... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, you go ahead, Charlie.
That's okay. The people who are struggling most out there right now are the 320,000 people who are out of work, who live in a state that has, in many respects, across every measure you can think of, the least competitive position you could possibly have with regard to the cost of doing business, the cost of government, the cost of taxes, the cost of permitting, the cost of energy, the cost of everything. And we are not, as a state, well positioned at all to deal with those issues if we don't get serious about dealing with our tax policy, our fiscal policy, and our regulatory policy. Now, I hear you say that we can't cut taxes. Well, the bottom line is, over time, we're going to have to reduce our tax burden if we're serious about competing with all these states that have been taking jobs and economic opportunity from us for the better part of 10 years. I don't want to follow the national recovery. I want to lead it.
We are leading it, Charlie. It's happening right now.
Governor,
and you can point to any number of independent. You don't have to take my word for it. You can point to independent analyses and economists who are saying that we are coming out of this recession faster and stronger than the rest of the country. We're gaining jobs faster than the rest of the country. And we are gaining those jobs. Well, you talk about
been declining for the last
you know what? Massachusetts is a good state. The governor's done a good job in tough circumstances. Not as bad as Charlie says. Well, it's not as good as the governor says either. We're in the middle right now. We're in the middle of the pack. And the people that are suffering are the people who aren't working in the middle class.
That's right.
The middle class is getting squeezed with taxes, with too much government, and with not any help. And corporate America is not helping the middle class, and big government's not helping the middle class. Those are the folks we have to work for. So we do have to bring down the cost of government and taxes. We may not be able to do it on day one, Governor. We got to work with the legislature on this, but we have to start bringing down the cost to middle class Massachusetts residents so they can keep more of their money, so they can focus on putting food on the table, keeping a roof over their head, and putting their own kids through school, and not have to be as dependent on government as we seem to be. We're depending on federal government, local governments are depending on us. It's a culture of dependency that has to start to end. One of the ways we do that is to shrink the size of government. And one of the ways we do that is to bring taxes down. But taxes for the middle class really is what have to be brought down so that we can start not only putting people back to work, but giving those middle class people a little bit more money to spend how they want to spend it as opposed to how we want them to spend it.
May I please build on Tim's point, because I think on this we might agree. It's not whether to bring taxes down, it's when. And as we grow and as the economy gets stronger and as tax revenues are restored, I'm all in favor of the idea of rolling back taxes. And I think we got to have a serious conversation about what is the right balance in those taxes.
Governor, let me jump in with all due respect to that point. Go ahead.
Tom,
you go ahead.
Let me just
go
finish
ahead.
this point, though. We have now been rated by CNBC the 8th best state in the nation in which to do business, up from 15th just 2 years ago.
40th in terms of our cost of doing business.
The Associated Industries of Massachusetts has a survey showing that business confidence surged in the month of May. 13 out of the last 15 months, it's gone up. Home sales are going up. Retail leasing is going up. We're not out of this yet. You know, if you're the one out of work, you could care less what the statistics say. It's really to Tim's point, right? We got to keep going. But to say that everything is broken is just not borne out by the facts. And the other thing I'd say is we've cut corporate taxes. They started going down in this last calendar year. They go down for each of the next couple of years. I think that is an element, not the sole element, but an element in how this economy of ours is recovering. And according to Philadelphia Fed, it's more than recovering. It's outperforming 48 other states.
Let's switch over to illegal immigration, which is a hot topic in the state and around the country.
I knew that was going to be your question, Todd.
And there are proposals in front of the legislature. The Senate has passed one that would restrict access to social services on the part of people who aren't in the country legally. Governor, let's start with you. What would your response be to that if it came across your desk? Would you sign that into law?
Well, so first of all, let me just say illegal immigration is a national problem. It requires a national solution, which is why I and others, and I think my colleagues here as well, have supported the idea of comprehensive immigration reform in the Congress. And I understand that at a time maybe most especially at a time when resources are limited, that people are very, very concerned that only those who are eligible for those resources have access to those resources, those public benefits. We have lots and lots of rules already in place that screen out those who are not eligible. Somebody gave me a memo the other day, I think it was over 13 pages of individual rules and regulations that limit public benefits to citizens or legal tax-paying immigrants. We have a responsibility to enforce those rules, and I accept that responsibility. Now, the Senate amendment is concerning to me on a couple of levels. First of all, to the extent it just restates what we're all already doing, it seems to me unnecessary. And when you think about all the other important business, payment reform in terms of controlling healthcare costs, the gun bill, it seems to me that the legislature could more productively spend its time on things where we have gaps in the law rather than adding to it. But it also is overreaching. I think it sweeps in arguably veterans and counts their welcome home bonus. This is a program that we put in place in the last few years that has recognized the combat suffering of National Guard and others who've served the country. It may reach legal tax-paying immigrants, legal meaning fully documented tax-paying immigrants. It also may conflict with federal law, in which case we're setting ourselves up for losing and costly litigation, and it may also add costs. So I'm concerned about the Senate amendment. I think I understand what's motivating it, Todd, and I
but if you